We're suing PayPal and Honey. Gamers Nexus is the lead plaintiff in a class action complaint filed against PayPal and its property, Honey. EK Waterblocks is embroiled in controversies. This is called a catastrophic failure. What you should do if you had one of these dumped on you during Newegg's shuffle. Newegg has, we feel, stolen $500 from my company. This might destroy the possibility of working with Nvidia at any point in the near future, because it is a kind of scorched earth approach, but that's the GN Chef special. Scorched earth. Intel's been on the list, AMD's been on the list, Nvidia's been on the list, and off the list, and on the list, and off the list, and on the list. And they're on the list again now.
What does it take to make a multi-billion-dollar corporation admit it was wrong? What does it take to force a company to recall a dangerous product it's actively shipping with the most in-demand hardware on the planet? It doesn't take a government regulator or a massive class action lawsuit, at least not at first. Sometimes all it takes is one man in a small office with a wall of testing equipment and an unwavering and slightly unhinged obsession with data. A man who built a YouTube channel that accidentally became one of the most powerful forces in consumer advocacy in the entire tech industry, holding giants accountable and exposing the biggest lies in PC hardware. Want to hear more? Let's get it. To understand how Gamers Nexus became the industry's de facto watchdog, we have to go back to 2008. The world of PC hardware was a very different place. It was a wild west of marketing jargon, where promises of extreme performance and revolutionary cooling were plastered on every box, and with very few people who were equipped to call shenanigans on all of this. This was the world Steve Burke stepped into when he launched GamersNexus.net. It wasn't born from some grand desire to be a crusader. At first, the site was just a passion project focused on game reviews and feature stories. The YouTube channel, started a year later in 2009, was an afterthought. It was just a simple place to store game trailers and videos he can embed on his blog posts. Burke had no grand vision of becoming a YouTuber. The platform wasn't a tech journalism titan it is today. His first videos weren't even about the thermal performance or voltage regulations of different GPUs and CPUs. They were about video games. His first studio wasn't even a sophisticated lab, but a folding card table with a white bedsheet thrown over it. He was a simple guy who loved games and the tech that ran them, and he loved sharing his thoughts online. For years, that's all Gamers Nexus was. Burke bounced between various tech jobs, including a stint as a contracted test technician at Dell, all while running the site and the channel on the side. The content was for a very small niche community of enthusiasts who shared his passion. There was no sign that this little operation, filming computer builds on the floor, would one day have billion-dollar companies anxiously watching his every move. It was a slow burn, a years-long process of building expertise and an audience one data point at a time. The change for Gamers Nexus from a gaming blog to an investigative powerhouse didn't happen overnight. It was a gradual, deliberate pivot. As YouTube started to explode in the early 2010s, Burke saw an opening. While a lot of other tech channels were chasing views with flashy build videos and surface-level reviews, there was a huge gap left in the market. Nobody was consistently doing the hard and tedious and expensive work of real scientific hardware analysis. This is where Steve Burke found his true calling. He realized the PC hardware community deserved more than just marketing talking points repeated on camera. They deserved data. They deserved proof. That realization was the spark that reshaped Gamers Nexus forever. The focus shift moving away from game reviews and towards hardware analysis, but with a unique, rigorous, and some might say obsessive approach. Steve is the well actually guy, but he uses his powers for good. This wasn't just about running a few benchmarks. This was about deep dive, data-driven reviews. It meant completely tearing down products to analyze the quality of every single capacitor and MOSFET. It meant building custom test benches and writing proprietary scripts to make sure every test was repeatable and scientifically sound. While other creators were leaning into personality, like me, Burke was leaning into methodology and charts. So many charts. He started investing in professional testing equipment, turning his small office into a legitimate lab dedicated to one thing: finding the empirical truth. This commitment to transparency and technical deep dives started to set the channel apart. Viewers who were sick of being misled by slick advertising found a home at Gamers Nexus. They came to value the exhaustive charts, the methodical explanations, and the unwavering focus on the data, no matter how inconvenient it was for the manufacturer. The channel started building a reputation not only as an entertainer, but a source of truth. This slow pivot from a passion project to a data-driven authority laid the groundwork for the explosive investigations that would come to define the channel and shake the industry to its core. And this is how I found Gamers Nexus. A guy with long hair, talking for long periods of time with very few edits, but to a truth that I could understand and connect with. A reputation for integrity isn't built overnight, and it definitely wasn't built on a single story. It's forged in the fire of consistent, meticulous work. Throughout the mid to late 2010s, Gamer Nexus perfected this method, becoming known for its almost forensic, Dexter-like approach to hardware testing. This dedication to the consumer advocacy would soon be tested against some of the biggest names in business, and not just manufacturers, but retailers too. One of the first major examples was the investigation into Newegg, a giant in the online PC parts retail space. In early 2022, Gamers Nexus bought an open box motherboard from them and decided they didn't need it, so they sent it back for a refund without even opening the shipping container. Newegg rejected the return, claiming the board had been damaged by the user, specifically pointing to CPU bent pins and thermal paste. Since the team had never broken the seal on the box, the claim was, to put it mildly, impossible. After Gamers Nexus went public with the dispute, Newegg quickly issued a refund and, most importantly, sent the motherboard back to them. What they discovered was damning. Taped to the motherboard was an RMA ticket from the manufacturer, Gigabyte. This little piece of paper revealed the truth. Newegg had previously sent this exact damaged board to Gigabyte for repair, had the repair decline, and then, fully aware it was broken, put it back in their inventory and sold it as open box to an unsuspecting customer. Unlucky for them, that customer was Gamers Nexus. It wasn't just a mistake, it was a systematic failure. The video exposing this blew up, and facing overwhelming public pressure from a flood of similar stories from other customers, Newegg was forced to publicly apologize and completely change its open box policy, introducing a no questions asked system. One YouTube channel had forced a multi-million-dollar retailer to fundamentally change how it did business. But the investigations didn't just stop with retailers. Later that year, Gamers Nexus turned its cameras on Artesian Builds, a popular boutique PC builder. The company was growing fast, making over $20 million a year and on track to make $30 million. But after a controversy around a giveaway, the cracks started to show. Gamers Nexus launched an investigation, working with inside sources to uncover a company drowning in mismanagement and a CEO obsessed with internet fame. The reporting revealed a house of cards. The company owned customers around 800 unbuilt PCs, valued at an estimated $1.8 million, or 10 RTX 5090s. There were stories of customers who sent their PCs in for repair only to have them locked away when the company went bankrupt, never to be seen again. Gamers Nexus exposed the unethical practices and financial rot, helping the public understand why the company ultimately imploded, leaving both employees and customers behind. These two investigations cemented the channel's role. They weren't just reviewing products anymore, they were policing the industry. This kind of fearless reporting is only possible if you're truly independent, and for Gamers Nexus, that independence is built on a strict financial firewall. In an online world where creators frequently promote products for cash, myself included, Steve Burke has drawn a hard line in the sand, establishing one of the most stringent advertising policies on the platform. The channel publicly refuses to engage in many of the most common and most lucrative forms of sponsorship. You will never see a fully sponsored video on Gamers Nexus, a format they view as ethically unacceptable for a review publication. Burke has blocked entire categories of advertisers that are staples for other YouTubers, such as VPNs, mobile games, cryptocurrency platforms, and gray market key sellers. While the channel does feature a single clearly marked pre-roll sponsor in some of the videos, they operate on a backwards system where they review the products first, and only if they think a product is good will they approach the company about a potential ad spot. It's a policy of integrity that has a very real cost. As a concrete example, the channel publicly canceled a $23,000 ad campaign with NZXT after banning the company for what it called unconscionable business practices. When you consider that a year-long sponsorship deal in the tech space can be well over $100,000 in revenue from a single brand, it becomes clear that Gamers Nexus is voluntarily giving up hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in potential revenue every year. It is a massive financial sacrifice made for one reason: to guarantee that their data and their word can't be bought. Every watchdog has a defining moment, a story so big that it becomes a point of no return. For Gamers Nexus, that moment came in the form of two power supply models from Gigabyte, the GP P850GM and the GP-P750GM. These weren't just bad products, they were dangerous. And they were pushed onto unsuspecting customers through their bundled deals through the highly sought-after graphics cards on, of course, Newegg. Reports have been trickling in from the community about these power supplies failing at an alarming rate. Some users reported their PCs just suddenly died. Others described the smell of smoke, or even worse, a loud bang followed by a dead system. When viewers begged Gamers Nexus to investigate, Steve Burke and his team launched a months-long deep dive investigation, buying up multiple units for testing, something that most other creators wouldn't do. The results were nothing short of explosive, literally. In their video report, Gamers Nexus revealed that a shocking 50% of the power supplies they tested failed catastrophically. Some failed during standard protection tests, while others died under a load as low as 60%. The failures were so bad that in one test, an exploding PSU took out a Gigabyte RTX 3080 graphics card with it, destroying a piece of hardware that was nearly impossible to buy at the time. The investigation zeroed in on the likely cause: poorly implemented safety circuits like overpower protection, OPP, yeah, you know me. Get out with OPP, yeah, you know me. These protections were set so high that the power supply's internal components, like the MOSFETs, would physically destroy themselves before the safety features could ever kick in to shut the unit down. It was a fundamental design flaw that turned a critical PC component into a ticking time bomb. Gigabyte's initial response was dismissive, but the data from Gamers Nexus was undeniable, and the video evidence was dramatic. The report pulled data from their own testing, a survey of over 200 users, and an analysis of Newegg customer reviews, which showed that over half of the reviews reported the product failing. The story created a firestorm. Faced with irrefutable proof and a massive public outcry, Gigabyte had no choice but to act. The company eventually issued a full recall and replacement program for the faulty power supplies. This wasn't just about getting a refund for a bad part. This was about consumer safety. Gamers Nexus had, through sheer persistence and methodical testing, forced a multi-billion-dollar corporation to admit its mistake and pull a dangerous product off the shelves. It was the moment the channel went from an influential reviewer to an essential consumer protector. The Gigabyte PSU disaster was a turning point. It proved that one independent media outlet could force a real, industry-wide change. But with that power came a new level of scrutiny, not just for manufacturers, but for other media outlets as well. Now it had set a standard for integrity, Gamers Nexus inevitably turned its critical eye towards its peers, leading to the biggest controversy in the history of tech YouTube: the public dispute with Linus Tech Tips. In August of 2023, Gamers Nexus published a 44-minute video titled "The Problem with Linus Tech Tips: Accuracy, Ethics, and Responsibility." The video laid out a series of concerns, but the biggest was LTT's review of a prototype monoblock water cooler from a small startup called Billet Labs. LTT had tested the one-of-a-kind prototype on the wrong graphics card, leading to poor performance results, and then auctioned it off for charity instead of returning it to the small company that had loaned it to them. Gamers Nexus framed this as an ethical lapse and a clear example of declining accuracy in the industry's largest tech channel. The fallout was immediate and huge. The controversy dominated the tech world for weeks, and Linus Sebastian, LTT's founder, first posted a defensive response that was widely criticized. As the pressure mounted, LTT announced that it was pausing all video production for a week to fix its internal processes and address the concerns that had been raised. The incident ignited a massive industry-wide conversation about the responsibility of content creators, journalistic standards on YouTube, and the balance between entertainment and accuracy. And I'll just talk about myself for a minute. I love to talk about tech, and I'm really always annoyed when I see something that's misleading, and I try myself to get everything right all the time. People will make mistakes, but when you have a team behind you, you really need to be overly accurate. And when you are one of the industry leaders, people have to believe and trust in you. While the two channels had disagreed publicly before, this was different. It just showed how much weight the Gamers Nexus name now carried. They were no longer just a hardware review channel. They were seen as the arbiter of standards for the entire tech media space. This relentless hunt for truth, whether it be aimed at a multi-billion-dollar company or the biggest creator in its own space, is only possible because of an audience that demands it. If you believe in the power of independent, data-driven journalism and want to support content that holds the powerful accountable, consider subscribing and hit that notification bell on Gamers Nexus. I don't do any of that stuff. If you like cool videos and you want to laugh from time to time, feel free to subscribe here, because I don't want that smoke. From a humble gaming blog that started in a bedroom to an investigative force that makes an entire industry nervous, the journey of Gamers Nexus is a testament to the power of a single dedicated voice. What started in 2008 as a simple website for game reviews accidentally became a powerful advocate for consumers. Steve Burke never set out to be a crusader. He became one out of necessity by filling a void in the tech media landscape that often valued ad dollars over objective truth. His channel's rise has shown the immense impact that rigorous evidence-based reporting can have. It forced a major retailer to completely change its return policies, exposed the fatal mismanagement of a famous PC builder, and compelled hardware giants to recall a dangerous product. More than that, it has fundamentally raised the bar for tech journalism on YouTube, pushing peers to adopt more rigorous testing and transparent practices. But this role of unwilling watchdog comes at a cost. It's led to public disputes, legal threats, and a constant battle against companies that would rather push their narrative than have their products properly tested. In a recent escalation, Gamers Nexus has turned its sights on Nvidia, one of the most powerful companies in the world. The conflict ignited over the launch of the RTX 50 series, with Gamers Nexus accusing Nvidia of pressuring media to include misleading performance metrics or attempting to manipulate reviews. The situation has boiled over with the RTX 5060 launch, where Nvidia withheld the necessary drivers from reviewers until the exact moment the card went on sale, making launch day reviews impossible and leaving consumers in the dark. In response, Gamers Nexus has announced a full-blown investigation into Nvidia's business practices, alleging strong-arming and underhanded tactics based on reports from other media and industry partners. The story of Gamers Nexus isn't just about one man or one channel. It's a story about the importance of critical thinking in an age of non-stop marketing. It's proof that with enough data, enough persistence, and unwavering commitment to the facts, you can expose the biggest lies and even force the most powerful to listen. And in a world where the line between information and advertising gets blurrier every day, that work is more important than ever. If you enjoyed this, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.